Greetings from Somerville, everybody. I'm your host, Michael Somerville. Thank you again for tuning in. And I want to talk about, I've been doing this 18 years, comedy, not the podcast. The podcast is about 2 months now. But I did one of my favorite gigs of all time this past weekend, and I just had to talk about it. When you're in comedy, you do a little of everything. Boy, you have good shows, bad shows, nice setups, and venues that treat you well, and other places that are just a train wreck. And this past weekend, I went to Kiowa Island in South Carolina. And I'd never been to South Carolina, which I found crazy because as a comedian, you generally get to just about every state. And oftentimes, not the largest city in the state. I've never been to Bismarck, North Dakota, but I've been to Minot, North Dakota. Or South Dakota, was it? South Dakota? Maybe that was, I don't even know. But exactly my point. These tiny little places off the beaten trail for one-nighters or whatever you may have. Well, anyway, there's a resort down there, and it's absolutely just a gorgeous island. I'd never heard of it, which a lot of people found hard to believe, because I guess it's a popular place, especially for golfers. They have the PGA tournaments there sometimes, and there's this wonderful hotel called the Sanctuary, and it's just stunning. It's on the Atlantic Ocean, and it's the off season now, and they wanted to bring in some comedians to have a comedy night for some of the people who live on the island. And there's not a whole lot to do in the winter months, so they have this comedy night. And you never know what you're going to get from a one-nighter. You wonder, people who don't normally run comedy shows, you hold your breath. You know, they don't understand what's important, what's needed to make a good show. The basics, even. Like sound, for example. Not a lot of places realize how important it is to have good sound when you try to put on a comedy show. And I have done shows, you'd be amazed. The shows, I did a show at a college where I was in a large college auditorium, and they had me speaking into the little microphone on the podium that a professor would talk into, and then the sound was coming out of these recessed speakers in the ceiling, which you could barely even hear. Sometimes I've done shows with no microphones. I just show up and they didn't even think to get a microphone. Oh, well, can't you just shout out, they said. So sound, obviously important, and the other thing is lighting. It's shocking how many places try to put up on a comedy show and realize or don't realize they need to actually show the comedian with some semblance of light and make sure that people can see the person performing. And then usually a stage of some sort. It's nice to be up above other people, and so there's a sense of authority, and they command some attention when you're up above other people. And I have stood on everything to perform, from lunch tables to a bar, an actual bar in a tavern where they thought I could just stand on the bar while people were drinking around my feet, and I could shout out jokes. So anyway, you're always a little nervous when you go into a one-nighter gig like this, but I was very excited from the beginning. They picked me up at the Charleston Airport in South Carolina, beautiful town car, and this guy had the nicest, I tell you what, that Southern hospitality is real. They were the nicest, most polite, gentle people I'd met. The driver who brought me, about 45-minute ride from the airport to Kiowa Island, had the greatest Southern accent, this lovely, mellifluous, kind of slow drawl. And he was so relaxing to listen to that I actually passed out in the middle of a sentence. I was talking to him mid-conversation, and he just had me so relaxed I fell asleep in the back of the car. And I woke up, and I'm so sorry. That's quite all right. That's quite... So I knew it was off to a good start. I said, these people are lovely. Get to the hotel. One of the great things about this gig is they offered me, it's this beautiful hotel spa, and I only had to perform one night for 20 minutes, yet they offered me up to 3 full nights at the spa for free. You want to stay here at this beautiful hotel, eat for free, eat in any of our restaurants, charge it all back to your room, and stay up to 3 full nights and make a weekend out of it. So already I said, this is fantastic. So I get in on Thursday night, and they have this famous Ocean Club restaurant that they have octopus and sushi and lobster tails, and I run down, it's about 8:45, and the place was about to close. I said, I'm so sorry, I don't want to bother you guys. No, not at all, please take a seat, sir. They made me feel like I was the king of the place, and I just had seafood, and you name it. And poke, which is a nice Hawaiian dish, kind of like a sashimi. We had lobster mac and cheese. It was just this incredible meal. And this is now, by the way, the end of 6 weeks for me on the road. I'd been on the road for 6 full weeks, and this was my very last stop. And so I was just thinking, what a way to end it. And I go stumbling up to my room, this big, beautiful bed with soft sheets and everything, and about 10 p.m., woke up at noon the next day, 14 hours later. Just life imitates art, because I talk about how I love sleeping, and my goodness, I just could not have been more relaxed, more at ease. The only thing I had to do is they had scheduled a massage for me that afternoon. So I got a nice casual lunch and then marched off to my massage at the spa, which was absolutely fantastic. Every little bit. Before I started the massage, I was face down on the massage table, and they had a bowl of eucalyptus leaves, and they said, close your eyes. We're now going to pour hot water into the eucalyptus leaves and take a deep breath. And so I did what they said, and all of this, they poured the water, and all this vapors from the eucalyptus came up, and cleared my mind, and I just said, this is amazing. So I stumbled from a great massage off to another perfect dinner. This time I got sushi, all different sushi rolls. Everything's no trouble, Mr. Somerville. What else can we get for you? Finally, it was about 6 p.m., and I felt like I was forgetting something. I realized I have to do a show. I completely forgot that I had a show that night. I was just on this vacation. So I clean up and I go down, and the show is perfect. They have a beautiful stage and perfect sound. They have a lighting guy. Every little detail. They've paid attention to everything. And as a result, the show was fantastic. The people felt good. They wanted to be there. The comedians felt good. They wanted to do a good job. As I said, I only had to do 20 minutes, so I was done by 9. And I said, well, this is unbelievable. And then all the local people were so appreciative that we came. They took us to their little tavern, and please let us buy you drinks. What can we do for you? And that was it. I wake up, that was Friday night. I wake up Saturday, and unfortunately I had to leave. I was allowed to stay a third night if I wanted for free, but I had to go because I had a show up in New Jersey at a Knights of Columbus. And needless to say, it was a very different experience at the Knights of Columbus. Things went a little differently, but it was back to reality. And that night I got to sleep in my very own bed in New York City, and I was very, very happy to be home. So anyway, we travel a lot. We have good shows and we have bad. And today's episode is about a woman from New York and a friend of mine who has picked up a lifelong New Yorker who has moved to Los Angeles for the first time. And I sat down with her to find out how it's going. Here we are, we're at the Hermosa Beach Comedy and Magic Club in Hermosa Beach, California, one of my personal favorite comedy clubs. And what a treat, our first ever episode with 2 people. Savanna, a glorious actress, born and raised in New York City, and moved recently to Los Angeles. Yeah. And her mom is visiting. And Mom, should we call you, what would you like to be called? Di. Perfect. Welcome, Di, to the podcast.
Lady Di, but I'm still here.
Now, it's funny because when I was thinking I was going to be in LA for a week performing, and I right away thought of you. I wanted you on this thing. I did not know you were going to be the lesser fun one.
Yeah.
I've known your mom 6 minutes. And already I can be like, we're doing a part 2 with your...
Yeah.
It's all in the genes. She's
You can take her.
No, absolutely teasing you. Savannah was in the very, very first episode of How to Blank a Man, the web series I made, first in New York, the very first season of that web series. You were the rock star actress who came in and was like, all right, it seems like these guys know what they're doing. Let's give it a try.
Yeah, it seems like
yes, and you have since. Now, what I love, I'm born and raised in New York City, and a truly born and raised. A lot of people like to say from New York.
No, born and raised in Manhattan. And normally when I tell people I was born and raised in New York, they assume I mean like Westchester or something, but I mean
in Manhattan.
Upper East Side.
Upper East Side.
The all-girls school for 13 years, all that good stuff.
It's like the movies.
Yeah. Well, the woman that wrote Gossip Girl went to my school.
Is that true?
Swear to God.
See, this is true and true, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
My experience is nothing like that.
Upper East Side.
That
on Fifth Avenue, living in that whole sort of lifestyle, which is so ludicrous at this point in our lives. But it was great to raise children with incredible educations.
Well, of course, I mean,
and hopefully a sense of humor. We know we got that.
I think you guys got that one down. Now, I mean, what a cultural city to grow up. And my parents are both born and raised in the Bronx, a little bit different from the Manhattan lifestyle. But I mean, when you think of access to everything in the world, from museums to culture to whatnot. But the one question you always hear is, when did you get your driver's license?
Funny story.
No, but most of the people I know who are...
I was...
It's amazing.
I think I was 26
Really?
when I got my license.
Yeah. Didn't want to drive.
And I had like a fear of it. I hated it. Absolutely not. I failed the first time. Because I tapped the curb when I was parallel parking.
At 26.
And I cried. And then I passed.
Crying.
Yeah. And that's... Yeah, so when I moved here, I got my first car. My dad was meant to get me a car for my high school graduation, but I didn't have my license yet. So this was my present, like 11 years later.
When you got here. But and also in Manhattan, living in Manhattan, we had a house in the Hamptons, as they call it, and so that's a drive, right? That's a drive now.
That I did not do.
She didn't want to know.
Nope.
Didn't want to know. And,
Driving is scary.
You drove a little bit in one of my cars for a minute, but she hated driving. And now
it's scary.
This is a bloody zoo. It's mind-blowing.
I don't know how I do it.
You look down all those red lights. It's like
it is. So now, for our
insane.
listeners, Savanna has just moved out as a lifelong New Yorker to Los Angeles. So you are literally driving out here for the first time.
Pretty much. I mean, like the biggest road I'd driven on was like the Montauk Highway, which is like 4 lanes, I think.
Is it?
Yeah. And then I get here and I thought I'd be smart and like avoid the freeways, which I accidentally ended up on one day, which terrified me.
You almost can't out here, right?
Yeah. And then
they're gigantic.
But now it's like even the smaller roads are like 8 lanes. It's
but
interesting.
The people are nice and they're good drivers and they're not aggressive as they are in New York. They're not like me. So it's a different feeling. It is.
Well, now you had to drive down here. You came from what area?
West Hollywood.
Yeah, I'm living
West
in West Hollywood right now.
Miles away.
And you have to. I mean, literally, when I'm driving somewhere in LA, I'll leave aside 2 or 3 hours, knowing that I don't know. I could be there in 15 minutes. I could be there in 3 hours.
Yeah. And everybody's like, it's okay.
Yeah, it's all local. You get used to it. You have your car, your radio. It's like driving around in your high school locker, right? You bring all your stuff with you, and you just.
It's crazy.
Like my tequila.
Also helps a little bit.
No, well, I wasn't driving.
You weren't driving, so that's okay.
So let's back up just a step. You do not have a New York accent.
I'm Australian.
Australian.
I'm Aussie, gypsy, totally.
Born there, raised there?
Born, raised, left.
Okay.
Lived in England. I'm now living in England.
Okay.
And in the Caribbean.
Oh,
my
really?
My house just got
life.
wiped out in Irma.
Oh, my.
It did.
Yeah, half wiped out.
Okay. All right. So you, so New York.
And then I married an American.
She hates New York.
And married an American. Okay, so when did you actually move to New York?
I was in and out from late 60s to 70s.
Okay.
I was in and out, traveling all the time. And then married in 78. Yeah.
Okay.
It's been a long time. It was great. We were talking about New York on the way over. What the park used to be like, the music used to be like, and there was a safety thing, but it was playing music.
Just a safety thing. It's no big deal.
No, it was good back then. Jimi Hendrix.
I know Jimmy. I imagine you saw. I mean, gosh, through the 60s and 70s in Manhattan, that must have been.
And in London before that.
Were there? Now I feel like there was once upon a time huge concerts in the park that don't exist anymore. That's a real thing, right?
And also great musicians just playing automatically, and everybody's
playing all over,
doing whatever,
having a good
watching
old.
The plants get bigger and bigger.
Talking about okay.
It says, "Is this how we got Savanna?"
Probably.
No, just darling. No, I calm down by then. I become pink on pink or what, beige on beige and pearls.
Yeah. Covered it up.
Now, what was your experience then coming from Australia to was New York the first other place you lived?
England. My father wouldn't let me go. England was what you normally went to.
Okay. And where is your favorite place then
the world?
Of the spots that you've lived?
That is a good question that she does not know yet.
I don't think. See, Can I say St. Bart's? Like, it sounds so flashy. St. Bart's in the
That sounds
Caribbean is where I have a
fishy.
home, and it's been amazing. But again, everything's getting to Morocco is incredible, an amazing part of the world.
Fantastic.
Morocco is amazing.
Okay. I know New York and New Jersey. Those are
Yeah. I'm like, I don't know.
Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos.
Oh,
all
you've
of that's
traveled a
extraordinary
bunch, huh?
too.
And have you gotten to spend time in all these places, or just travel through
Vietnam,
for work?
I was there 3 or 4 times.
Oh,
and,
fantastic!
Yeah.
I love it. And how about yourself?
You can all do it. Everybody goes, I wish I had. Nobody's nailing you to the cross.
It is amazing, isn't it? That everyone, I wish I did that. You know what? You can go. You're allowed. You're allowed to go.
Yeah.
And in fact, one of the podcasts we do, I did a interview with this guy who literally, if he's got 48 hours in his schedule, he has a plane ticket in his hand. He's going somewhere. Yeah.
Wow.
Not that expensive. You can find deals. You can get every time he has a minute, he goes somewhere.
awesome.
And he loves it.
It's
And-
great.
Yeah. And as a result, he has a
It's
really.
really
Happy
incredible.
life.
It's
Exactly.
what I call the university of the world.
It really is, and
is
there's
that.
nothing quite
Yeah.
like it, right?
Yeah.
Even now, things are different, but it's still a lot of wonderful places you can
After
go.
9/11, only 5% of Americans had passports. Think about
Is that true?
That's a true statistic.
Wow, that is something, yeah.
No, they probably got 85 that because they want to get away.
They all want to go somewhere. Now, Savannah, as a true New Yorker, and I know from your Facebook, your heart is still in
It is.
New York City.
It is.
How has your experience been coming here to Los Angeles? This is a major adjustment for anyone, I would think.
It has not been great.
Is in anything beyond the bad, the presumable like driving,
Well,
it's just not New York.
started really bad
Okay.
because I got to my apartment and it wasn't the one in the photos that I done online.
Did you get a place online?
Yeah,
and-
I did like
oh.
2 months through like HomeAway or whatever, and I get to the apartment and it was the wrong one. And then it was a long weekend, so they didn't even get in touch with me until like 5 days later. And like, oh, we made a mistake. We'll put you in the right one.
Oh boy.
Then I had a package stolen from my front step with all these things that I love from New York.
Oh my.
First day.
It wasn't
Like
my first
so
day, it was
something
the
got
first week.
delivered, UPS or something, and
then
someone just stole.
took it.
Oh my
Then
goodness.
my neighbor had his tire stabbed,
Oh my.
and it's been not great.
Yeah, and mom is signaling.
The
Yeah,
Oh, the
searchlights,
helicopters?
But that's apparently
Overhead.
normal here.
That's
I
not,
don't know.
except the guy they were spotting was running
running
through the
the-
next
yeah.
building.
So
And
the
this
police
is why
helicopters
Mummy's
are
here.
overhead.
Yeah.
Someone's on the loose in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
Got it.
Oh my.
Next door. This is why Mummy's here.
Oh, that.
Yeah,
This is
it was,
gonna
This is not-
gonna
It
put you in a
has-
suitcase
yeah.
and take you home, I think.
it's not a smooth transition. to
Okay.
say the
Well,
least.
that does sound like it's
But-
been about a month, right?
Yeah, 6 weeks.
Okay.
I'm like counting the days. No. It's okay. It's okay. But
Well, I mean, there's always.
I mean, I hated New York when I left it. I was over it, and now of
Did
course
you
that
really?
I'm here, I miss
just
it.
because you felt like you'd gone as far as you
yeah,
could.
and
Yeah.
like the routine of it, and the same subways, and
I-
the same walks, and la la la.
I know that feeling, and as a
Yeah.
comedian, I think that's why I'm glad I get to travel
yeah.
a lot because it does keep New York somewhat fresh for me.
Yeah,
I'm out and then I'm
totally.
back, and it feels new again, and there's always a
Now
new
I'm like
restaurant or a.
psyched to go back at Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that your next trip home?
Yeah.
Okay, and
Yeah.
there's also a certain little one
Yes.
back east that
My niece.
your niece is.
And who probably forgets who I am now.
I.
But
Well,
You've got that
she's
connection.
yeah,
from here.
we are
Sure.
obsessed with each other.
people should stop making babies because it's been
They're
done
not-
to perfection.
That baby is perfect.
That is.
There's
if-
too many in the world.
No, that's not. No,
All
it's
men
because
should be
Marlo's
castrated
perfect.
now.
Well, I don't know if I'll go that far,
Yeah.
but
There's too many people.
yeah, there are a lot of people.
What's the
But that child, I'm glad you know me and like me because if you didn't, you would think I was crazy. Because every picture online, I'm like just
He loves Marlo.
those cheeks, those
She's
everything.
adorable.
She's
Oh
such a little
my.
She's a
angel
good one.
fatty.
Goodness
She's
gracious.
got an
She's
attitude
getting a little
too.
bit tooty.
Is she getting sassy?
A
Well,
little
mommy and
sassy.
daddy.
A little spoiled,
Well,
but we love
she's slightly admired.
She's pretty cute.
They're coming to England to stay with me in a week or so, I think.
Oh, wonderful.
My goddaughter's getting married, over there. So they're coming.
Marlo's first international trip. No, she went to St. Bart's. That's a lie.
Yeah.
First
Wonderful.
transatlantic trip.
That's a big deal because she's I mean, not that old
She's like
for
a year and a half now.
jetting around. Yeah.
A cutie.
Starting young. So she has a passport?
Yeah. Yep.
Of course.
A little 1-year-old with a
Mom
passport.
had me
Got
traveling
two.
when I was
Ozzy
2
had it.
months.
Does she?
Yeah, my kids were on the plane.
I
when
have
I
2
was 6
passports.
weeks old,
Marla
so-
has one.
But she can get the Aussie.
No, she can't.
Why not? Grandparents. It works.
That doesn't work.
It does.
That's not a thing.
It
She
is.
can't. No. One of the parents.
I've got
we're
my
not-
English.
we're
I
not
got my
gonna
English
do-
one through my grandparents.
Okay.
Trust me.
Well, and I
You
know
want as many as you can get right now.
Yeah,
I've been
I agree with
told,
that.
and my family kept saying the Irish passport because all 4 of my grandparents are from Ireland, and my cousin just actually did it, and the story is hysterical because they're like, oh, you have to find out your lineage, you have to find out, but I mean, he was having to contact like century-old churches in Ireland who were going through actual like paper files in the basement.
Oh my
I mean, he
God.
said it's not an
Birth
easy
certificate.
thing.
Yes,
Yes,
yeah.
You're
Yeah.
looking up who
It
lived
took
on what
me
street.
months
It depends
just to
where
get
you
my
are.
Australian
I
one.
think the Irish are probably a little more old school with their filing system.
But boy,
Yeah.
can they laugh.
I think there's a reason I'm a comedian.
Yeah.
We can tell a story and we can laugh.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of the business, then talk to me about New York versus LA. Obviously, New York theater centered.
Yeah, New York is definitely. I mean, when I was there, it was like 95% theater
Yeah.
stuff. But since I've gotten here, like, there's much more work. Like, I've gone on way more auditions than I was going on in New York.
Fantastic.
I got a commercial agent today.
Well, hello, congratulations.
Thank you.
This is a
It's a
celebratory.
big moment.
It's a huge moment.
Yeah, and like I was on the hunt for that for 4 years in New York, and it didn't happen. in
Absolutely.
2 months here, and
Boom.
so I guess it's okay.
Yeah, well,
It's fine.
It makes sense. But that is always the thing. In New York is theater,
Yeah.
LA is TV and film.
But the first thing I got here was a play, weirdly.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like a little.
Did anyone come out? I feel like no one
I
wants to
mean,
go
that's
to
the I mean, it's surprising actually. I've literally performed in New York where no one came, and
Yeah.
we basically had a dress
baby.
rehearsal. Yeah. No, people did come. Yeah, it was nice.
Okay.
I think maybe because it's not everywhere that people are like, oh, what's this theater?
What is this
as
about?
opposed to New York where there's like a million. And they have like crappy ones that are like duct taped
Broadways, yeah.
together.
And the theaters are so much nicer here.
Yeah.
They're not,
Yeah.
So.
Well, it is tough to motivate people, though.
Yeah.
In general, I find on the road as a comedian,
Yeah.
you know, even if I'm in Buffalo or Toledo, we have options at home now with phones and
Yeah.
Netflix and internet, and people just don't necessarily
And
want to go
especially
out
like
as much.
all my friends are actors, basically, at least here, and they can't afford to buy a $25 ticket to see some like rinky-dink show I'm in, you know?
Exactly. Kind of like you guys are doing tonight.
Yeah. I only came because it's free.
But,
No.
but the comedians and all, who was that? Was it Caroline, a woman in New York?
Caroline,
Sure,
she
yeah.
was
Played with
performing
Chandler,
there.
had dinner. She was at our house, blah, blah, blah. And she's super cool. I mean, she did the whole blah, blah, blah. I mean,
Yeah.
isn't it still a huge thing, though, going to a club to watch
Yeah.
comedians? I mean, yeah.
Still,
You've got to have a
I told you I
laugh.
went
it's a
to
wonderful
serious
night
laugh.
out.
I went to
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Comedy Cellar, right, in New
Comedy
York, and Amy Schumer showed up, and then I
That's
told
right.
him, and then he was performing later that night,
Yeah.
and I was like, damn it, I missed him. But
Yes,
Woo!
yes, but exactly,
That's amazing.
and
It's
that
cool.
that is my new home club. I'm proud to say.
That's very
but
fancy.
also, they started doing a brunch show this year, and everyone kind of laughed and said, "Really, a
what?
Sunday 1:30 p.m. brunch show? It's sold out every single
You need
week."
to
I
laugh
think brunch is the dumbest
every
thing ever, but
minute
I
you
get
can
that.
get it.
I completely
Totally.
agree.
Yeah.
What makes
I mean,
you laugh?
Who wants to eat? Me?
I think that's actually the answer too.
Yeah.
Me,
No, unfortunately, no.
I make
But I
me
mean,
laugh.
brunch is so boring.
I
Brunch. Who
hate
wants to eat that?
brunch.
What that kind of food? And like
I hate
the eggs and what is it? What is brunch? It's
'Cause I hate
it's a
breakfast
restaurant's
food.
way of making money.
Exactly.
Because they
22
can't
bucks
do
for an
two
egg.
things.
Yeah.
But no, but
And
to
like
see a
bottomless
comedy, I mean,
mimosas.
it's a piss. You know?
Isn't it? Yeah. Well, and I think it's when I saw the crowd, I performed there last Sunday, and it was, I think, perfect because women in relationships wanted to go to brunch, and
Yeah.
then the men didn't want to sit at a brunch, so it was perfect. They had comedy to look
That's
at.
a good
Absolutely.
idea.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it wound up being
Absolutely.
absolutely
That's- yeah,
packed. Yeah.
that's a good
Who are your
combo.
guys? You have favorite comedians? Do you watch stand up at all?
You don't know, but I remember back in the day.
We watched Trevor Noah's thing in
I
St.
adore
Bart's,
Trevor
and you
Noah,
loved
and I
it.
adore the English guy, my fave. Who's my boom, boom, boom? Come on.
John Oliver? He's not stand-up.
No.
Ricky Gervais.
Ricky Gervais,
Yes,
hello. How
Ricky's
can you? I
glorious.
mean, he's so twisted and sick. See, that's the great English humor.
Yeah.
It's like
I like
they
his-
get away with it. They really
Brilliant,
do get away
yes.
with it. You know?
And
But
remember
no,
we
Jon
had that
Stewart was
old-
amazing. But the political comedians you have in America are just
We had that old
mind-boggling.
we had an old VHS tape of Jerry Seinfeld's Last Stand. Remember? And we watched it on repeat till it like shredded.
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
See?
Really?
Yeah, it was great. But
No.
now I love Chandler and I, my sister and I love Aziz.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
love him.
Yeah. Now there's a
Yeah.
lot of great comedy going on, and like
Thank
you say right
God,
now,
you need love right
and
now.
all different versions. It's not just stand up anymore. It's improv.
Yeah.
It's like you say.
That's
it's all
what was
these.
crazy
The
at the
internet's
Comedy
opened up.
Cellar is
Yeah.
like I saw like how different people's styles were. Like like one guy would kind of just tell one story
Yep.
the whole way through, and then someone else it's like little bits,
like,
and
yep.
it's interesting to see like
And
how they
the audience
do it.
interaction.
yeah. So like one guy will go off just like by picking a table and just like
Right.
taking it
Right.
from there kind of thing.
And other guys more just scripted,
yeah,
straightforward.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's totally.
I
yeah.
But
perform-
the women
I could not
comedians
do it,
are
is the point.
amazing
There
too here in
are
America.
some of the
I don't hear
funniest.
any in the world except in America.
It's so
female
funny because it
comedians.
was years ago. There was that article. It was in Vanity Fair or something. It was a controversial article where are women funny, which is obviously
Oh,
a
yeah,
ludicrous
yeah,
question.
yeah.
But I mean, the women and the scene that I see now are funnier than
Yeah.
any guy I've never.
And that,
I
yeah,
mean,
that's what
just-
they had.
Really?
They are
Yeah.
brilliant. The stuff that women are doing, and it's so great to
Fearless.
see for the scene. Oh, fearless
I mean,
on
Mom makes
stage.
fun of me because I'm rewatching 30 Rock for like the 900th time in a row. She can't stand listening to it anymore, but like I cannot
I've
get
heard
enough.
it for like
Tina
20 years.
is like,
It's
Is
like,
it-
it's
the same old-
hiding in her bedroom with this thing.
what up, Tina is everything.
But she's great. Tina Fey's brilliant.
Well, I performed one time in England, right in Leicester Square, the Comedy
Cool.
Store. I was so nervous and so excited, and I was backstage. I was there to do a TV show, but we were going to do a live performance to warm up. Saturday night, the 8 p.m. show, the whole thing,
God.
and I'm backstage, like as a newer comic, I'm changing all my jokes. So instead of apartment, I'm gonna say flat,
Flat, and
instead
all
of
that
like
stuff.
all this
Yeah.
stuff in my head. And I actually mentioned it to one of the other local English
Yeah.
comics and said, "What's the word for it?" And he said, "Oh, please tell me you're not going to change, like trying to change it."
say it,
He
yeah.
said, they'll eat you alive. And I was so
That's
thankful. He
so
said, they
funny.
know what an apartment is,
Yeah.
and they know you're an
Exactly.
American. Just
Exactly.
go do your
Exactly.
show. And it was the
Exactly.
best advice ever. But the thing that struck me about the show, the MC got introduced, and before he even got to the stage, 3 different people had assaulted him
What?
with just calling names, yelling
Oh,
stuff
God,
out. And
no.
some of the most brutal heckling I've ever witnessed ensued.
I
and
hate that.
As a humorous thing, or
as
is
it was funny, I was terrified. I'm watching
don't
it.
know
goes-
how you do
and
it.
See, we don't get that in the States. The
No,
only
you
one,
don't.
the only one who was funnier than the people yelling was the MC, who was just shutting them down one after another.
Oh.
Finally, there was one guy about 6 minutes in who still wouldn't stop barking, and this huge bouncer went over to him, tapped him on the shoulder, and goes, in a great accent, which I
Yeah.
can't do. He goes, "That's quite enough." And this guy, the customer, looks up and goes, "Oh, very well," and sits back, and he just sits back and then watches the
Yeah.
show. And I'm back sweating, going, "Is this gonna help you?"
He just like
brilliant.
read it
That's
his cue, like
brilliant.
you're done.
It was
We're done.
crazy. I said, "I can't go out there." This
Oh,
is,
It's
God.
brilliant.
but-
they are there's a
there is a
I get
quickness
nervous
and a
going.
kindness.
yeah.
Oh my God.
wit and humor.
The humor in England is mind blowing.
It's amazing.
We call taking the Mickey. Pissing
Yeah.
somebody off and
I
they
love it.
and they
Yeah.
tease each other, and that's the Aussie thing too.
That's
I
why I
mean,
get
we
nervous going to comedy shows, though, that like I'll get picked on. Or something.
I
That's
think
why I
we all
like never
are
sit
as
in the
women
front.
that
I'm
are
like,
hiding
"Oh,"
under the
yeah.
table. or
Right.
whatever.
Yeah,
Right.
I was getting nervous. Yeah.
Well, speaking of, we have a show to do. I have to get ready to perform, and you guys have to go and relax in your lovely seats and enjoy a show. I hope you'll be there at the end. If not, I'll know you didn't have a good time.
Believe me, we'll be there.
Hey, thanks so much for listening to Greetings from Somerville. Please subscribe, rate, and review us on iTunes, and listen to all 3 of my stand-up comedy albums for free on Spotify, Pandora, and SiriusXM. I'm Michael Somerville. Have a great day.